Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here for the next edition of Moving Beyond the Coronavirus Economy. My name is Tom DuFore, and this session has become a monthly staple for us to talk all about the current franchise sales and marketing trends and different things that are going on that are going to be impacting franchise sales and marketing trends. Thank you all for joining us. If you're new here or haven't joined us before, please feel free to go ahead and type in your any questions, raise your hand. This is a live show, so we're happy to have you ask questions as we go through this process, as people are tuning in. If you haven't joined us, I go through a broad cross section of different data points and data sets for us to be talking about. If there's something you're not sure of or would like to talk more about, please let me know. And we will go ahead and jump right into this. I'm going to share my screen and we will get moving quickly through this process. So here we go. All right. So where we like to start first is the Institute for Supply Management. And I love these reports that they put together. They're fantastic. If you've ever seen these, they're wonderful. But I always like to make sure that we are looking at these and talking about them. So this is the first one we talk about. And I love taking a look at what's going on in the manufacturing sector in the country. It is a leading indicator for us to kind of see what's happening. Are we seeing any trends or things declining or going up, or what's happening? So in manufacturing, the PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index, that's Purchasing Managers Index, is at 58.7%. And manufacturing grew in December as the manufacturing PMI registered 58.7%, 2.4 percentage points lower than the November reading of 61.1%. All five sub-indexes that directly factor into manufacturing PMI were in growth territory. All of the six biggest manufacturing industries expanded in the following order: chemical products, fabricated metal products, computer and electronics, food, beverage, and tobacco products, transportation equipment, and petroleum and coal products. So bottom line is, this is still in a growth mode. And if you look down here on this chart, you see that 50% equals manufacturing economy break even line. So when the number is over 50%, that means we're in a growth territory. So by all stretch of, from what I'm seeing, this is a good sign for us on how things are going. This means purchasing managers are buying stuff. They're planning ahead for new orders and they're getting things going. So I think that's a positive outlook, especially as you're starting to think about franchisees and franchises coming into your system, or in your own marketing communication. Maybe people are worried about, hey, what's going on with the economy, or I heard this or that, what's going on? This is a talking point for you to be sharing. So next, we'll jump into their second report they have for the Institute of Supply Management. And this is the Purchasing Managers Index report on services. And the U.S. is primarily a service-based economy. And in December, the services PMI registered at 62%. The 12-month average is 62.5%, which is just tremendous. And you can see this line here. Look at the last 2021, you can see that it's 62.5% is a pretty high number, comparing it to even just the previous 2 years. The December reading indicates the services sector grew for the 19th consecutive month after 2 months of contraction and 122 months of growth before that. A reading above 50% indicates the services sector economy is generally expanding. So all positive signs on that end, that things are really growing, booming, and expanding here. All right. Number 3 on our list here is looking at, this is again from the Institute for Supply Management, and we're taking a look at their hospital Purchasing Managers Index. This is their newest report that they launched, and that's at 63.8%. So the hospital PMI registered 63.8% in December, a 0.7 percentage point decrease from the November reading of 64.5%, indicating a 19th consecutive month of growth. So this is, by all stretch of imagination, this seems to be indicating from a broad perspective, things are trending in the right direction. So all positive things. Let's take a look at the unemployment rate here. Certainly, this is on the top of mind. This came out in January 7th here. This is for last month in December. And in December of 2021, the non-farm payroll employment rose by 199,000, and the unemployment rate declined to 3.9%. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported. Employment continued to trend up in leisure and hospitality, and professional and business services, and manufacturing and construction, and in transportation and warehousing. So what does this say? Probably things you're probably familiar with. The unemployment rate continues to decline and continue to reduce down, which means there are fewer workers available to be finding them to fill these open positions that we're seeing everywhere across the country, in addition to just the transient movement of staff and people leaving jobs, moving jobs, and what we'll be talking about here, looking to start new businesses and going through that process. And here is the one this report that I really, really like from the Census Bureau. This is business formation statistics. So this is an aggregate of each state's new business startups, how many new business applications were filed or formed in that previous month. So these were all of the startups that were formed in December of 2021. And what is really interesting to see, you can see on the chart here, it was about 400, I think it was right around 420,000, 418,000 new business applications happened. And you can see the trend. It's very clear. Right before the pandemic, you can see it was trending just right around or just under or just above that 300,000 new business formations were happening before the pandemic. There was the dip here that happened in those few months immediately following, looks like March, April, May, June. And then this was August of 2020 here, this huge spike of new business formations. And then it dropped down, and then it bounced up again. And then it seems to have kind of leveled off here at over 400,000 new business startups. And we're seeing a trend here of well over of almost a 50% increase, depending on the month or more, of applications going on. And what does that mean for your business? Well, I think what you should take from that is people have starting a new business on their mind. They're thinking about it, and they're taking action. They're taking action by starting these new businesses. And while all of them will not end up purchasing a franchise, some of them will. And so this is prime time to be focused on that person that's coming in. They're maybe thinking about it. They're making these life changes happening. So we've got they call it the Great Resignation, and what it's being called, that we're seeing. And people are starting businesses. People are looking for purpose and looking to do what they want to do with their life. So keep that in mind as you're running your franchise sales, franchise marketing efforts, and lead generation efforts, and going through this. And we'll talk more about startups here shortly, about the number of people types, and we'll go through some additional data points. So this is the Small Business Startup Sentiment Index. I love this index. It's put together by franchiseinsights.com. This is a really, through Franchise Ventures, I should say. This is a really cool report. I really like this annual or monthly report that they prepare and put together. And so the startup sentiment found that the question is now a good time to start a business? And it is a really, really high number. It's showing that 72.7% people agreed in the month of December that they agree or strongly agree. And the survey was conducted between December 27th and 31st, basically between Christmas and New Year, that entrepreneurial optimism is up. So I think that's a really, really good indicator that people are thinking about it. This is what's on their mind. This is what people are thinking about. Now is a good time. So in your messaging, in the things you're talking about with your prospects and your candidates, if you're not reinforcing to these candidates Now is the right time to get this going. Yeah, now to be making sure to bring it back to the present, that right now is a positive time to be doing and starting a new business. It's on their mind anyway, and reinforcing maybe even with some of the data that we're talking about here, that you can be talking about. So these are all things that you can be sharing and at least be talking about in your marketing. This is a, oh wait, I'm not ready to move on from this report yet. So I'm going to scroll down here. How likely are you to start a business now compared to 3 months ago? So people are 50, almost 60% of people are much more likely or more likely to want to start a business now versus 3 months ago. That trend is going up here. And here we go. Startup intent within 3 months is at a record. 62.1% of respondents said that they're looking to start a business within the next 3 months. So that means your prospects are thinking of doing something now. So make sure you're asking about starting, getting started, doing something to get it going. So take a look at reminding them when you're talking to them, they want to do something. They're going to be making a decision. It's more than likely that these candidates that are active in your process, in your pipeline right now, they're making a decision today. I can tell you just, anecdotally, but just from current clients and that we're working with, had a prospect for a client that someone on the team was talking to. They'd been talking to her for a few months, and just this week or last week, I should say, she said, oh, he asked, when are you, looking to get this started? Because she said she was ready to make a decision, and she said, oh, I'm ready to go this week, right now. Send me the paperwork. I'm ready to start. And if he hadn't asked, when do you want to start? He may not have called her back for a week or two. And instead, now it's on the front burner. It's moving and helping her through that process. So something just for you to be thinking about. And then one thing I always like to show this chart here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I realize you might not be able to see that very well. So which of these factors will have the biggest impact in the next 6 months on your decision to start a business? So the number one factor it's at 88.9% of the respondents said that funding or access to credit is their number one factor. It's by a large number. We have the economic climate at 41.7%. And if you can see here, this black line is the most recent month. That was for December of 2021. If you look down here, you could see that over the course of the last year, it's really been trending down, and a little spike in the month of December of 2021. Maybe has been caused from the uptick or a little surge there from the coronavirus stuff going on. And when you look at these numbers, by far the two largest factors are funding, number one, economic climate, number two. So using data points like from this report can help maybe make a candidate feel a little better, help give them some confidence that things are maybe not as dire or maybe not as extreme as maybe they might be thinking for the current economic climate. They're a little nervous, but these kinds of things can help reinforce it. It's things are actually going in a positive direction as a whole. And really here is making sure you have some answer for funding for candidates. Obviously, you can't most franchisors are not going to be giving money away and saying, hey, we'll fund your whole thing for you, but maybe coming up with some solutions, having funding partners in place. If you don't have any third-party lenders that you're working with, maybe look to establish one, or look to establish 2, 3, or 4 different options for your candidates to work through if funding is going to go through. There's a lot of private equity or private funding. Maybe there's a way to secure lending through some investment group, or a private investor might be interested in maybe funding some of your franchisees. You never know. Maybe other franchisees in your network are willing to invest in an owner operator. Maybe they'll partner with some of your prospective franchisees. So don't look at it purely as just borrowing money. These could be things for you to be considering as you start to as you're looking to bring these folks into your system. Consider some different ways of thinking on it. Okay, this is the next several slides here are from franchiseinsights.com. I love the data and information that's shared through Franchise Insights. So this was something that was done about lead generation, and talking specifically about franchise lead generation portals drive discovery and consideration. Now, certainly it may be the report may be a little self-serving with Franchise Ventures that owns several of these different franchise lead gen sites. Nonetheless, it is important to know that without what they show here is how the question was, how familiar were you with franchises to which you inquired? And if you see very familiar was only 7%, already somewhat familiar was 21.1%, vaguely familiar 35%, completely unfamiliar 36%. So we're looking at over 70% of the respondents were vaguely familiar or completely unfamiliar with the brands that they inquired about. What that means is if you're an emerging franchise brand or even a brand with under 100 units, the chances of a random inquiry coming in and finding your system, a random person being familiar with your brand, it's unlikely, especially if you're regional in to any degree, or you're a brand that doesn't have much of a retail presence or a front and center presence in the mind of a general consumer. They're probably not going to be familiar with you. So how are they going to find you? And so these franchise lead gen portals, sometimes in franchising, they can get a bad rap at times, but I found that it's a great way to get some leads, and they figured out how to drive people who are interested in buying a franchise and then present your brand as a way to get introduced to them. And so what they're finding is that people who are coming to these are driving awareness for your franchise brand. So I thought that was interesting, just an interesting point to talk about. So if you're not on a franchise lead gen portal, maybe you consider it. Or if you're contemplating if you want to change or switch, it's just some data and additional information to be thinking about. All right, this is what I'm so excited about. So Franchise Insights has produced several of these. I think the last one came out in Q1 of 2021, but I love the heading here. It says the primary motivations for franchise ownership are resilient. So the top motivations for owning a business from Q4 2021. This was gathered between October and December of 2021. And they're asking the franchise candidates, why do you want to, what's driving you to want to start your own business? And this right here, for franchise marketing people, franchise sales people, this right here, this is the messaging. This is what you want to make sure you're communicating, that your opportunity helps solve this problem. The problem for these people is they want to be their own boss. They are currently not their own boss. How does your franchise, your opportunity, provide this solution for them? How does that? How can you help lead them to be their own boss? So make sure in your marketing and in your discussions with people, you're talking about and reminding them why they're looking at this. Very often the candidate might come to you and see your FDD and they start questioning all kinds of things about your item 19 or your item 7 and your total initial investment. And they're starting to pick things apart and they get in and focused on the details. That's all well and good. That's proper consumer behavior. They should be considering these things when they're looking to make an investment. But your response back to them is going to be important. Answer their questions, provide the information that they need, what you're able to, and pose back to them. Hey, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith, you remember when we talked early on, you had expressed really being dissatisfied. Remember, we want to get you to be your own boss. Let's keep moving you down the path here. We're going to answer these questions and move you forward. So you want to keep them progressing and keep this on the top of their mind when they're going through it. Maybe tell a story about a current franchisee who had a similar experience. They were working a job or were unhappy with their position and really wanted to run their own business. And now franchisee in Phoenix, Arizona, or franchisee in Charlotte, North Carolina, wherever, has took that bold step of going into business for themselves. And now they're happy. They have this business that they're able to be their own boss. Income potential was number 2. It stayed the same. It's about just under 70%. So if you look at that 89.1% for be my own boss, so that means 9 out of 10 respondents selected that. Income potential, almost 7 out of 10 people selected that. So income potential was something that they were interested in. So if you have a strong AUV or average unit, average unit, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. Volume, thank you. Goodness, average unit volume, you'd be able to share that in your item 19. If you have something to share, to showcase, talk about that. They want to know that there is an income potential here. Lifestyle rewards, about half the folks responded that lifestyle rewards, and about half the folks also responded that a side business to supplement income. So half the people that are coming in are also looking for a lifestyle. Roughly, and about half are also looking for this to be more as a side hustle or a small side business, maybe to get them started. So if you're in a business model that maybe would allow someone to start part-time or nights and weekends or something, talk about that. It looks like 1 out of every 2 candidates that's interested in buying a franchise is expressing that to be the case. So these are important things for you to be talking about. The last one on the list is tired of climbing the corporate ladder. That was at 36.8%. So just over a third of candidates are responding that's their reason, top motivation for owning a business. So just important things for you to be thinking about, discussing, talking about, and reminding candidates of, and showcasing how your franchise opportunity helps get them to where they want to go, helps to get them to be their own boss. And I know if you've been in franchising for a long time, like I have, sometimes you hear the messaging of, be your own boss, be the captain of your own ship, be the master of your own destiny. And sometimes that messaging gets tired because we've just been in the business for a long time. But at the end of the day, that messaging still resonates, as the survey says that, these are the things that the franchise prospects and potential business owners are thinking about. Okay, let's talk about top categories. I really like this. So what's popular right now for franchise candidates? So Franchise Insights runs a nice report where they talk about this. These categories, it says most active franchise categories. These categories of businesses have received the most inquiries in the last 90 days. So here is the list. At the top of the list, and it has been for a while now, since shortly after March of 2020, home services is head and shoulders above all of the other industries. Just over 20% of all franchise inquiries came in for the home services industry. That means over 1 out of 5 leads coming in is for home services. So if you're in the home services business, now is a good time for you to be making sure that you've got appropriate lead gen coming in, because folks are interested in you. They're looking for you. Senior and healthcare was number 2 at just under 13% at 12.9% total. Business services, 12.3%. Food and restaurant, 10.8%, and cleaning and maintenance at food and restaurant was 10.8%, and cleaning and maintenance was 10.5%. Those are the top 5, and each of those top 5 are the only categories that received more than 10% of the actual inquiries that came through. Following suit, health and fitness is at 5.2%. There's definitely been a comeback there because health and fitness had fallen farther down than that. So it's starting to come back, which is good. If you're in health and fitness, these are all good things for you to see. Financial services, 5%. Child related's popping back up, 4.4%. Retail at 3.9%, and pet services at 2.9%. So these are the top 10 categories that folks are looking at, and the percentage of total leads that are coming in for each category. And here are the category gainers in terms of how they've increased and shown that. So we had talked about home-based business grew the most. So home-based grew 700% over the last 90 days. So if you've got a home-based business, automotive was the second highest gainer. So if you're in the automotive industry, big increase. Real estate had a big increase too. Those were the top 3 franchise category gainers during the last 90 days. All right, next report. Let's just take a look at what percentage of inquiries. So this is again from franchiseinsights.com. This is called Franchising Opportunities by Cost. And it says, while franchise opportunities are available to suit any budget, in 2020, the inquiries fell into the following ranges. The cost represents the available liquid capital needed to purchase the franchise and does not include ongoing royalties, if applicable, operating or capital expenses. It also does not include any working capital needed, as in the case of a business which offers purchases to customers on credit. So as we look at this report here, this is showing what percentage, what percentage of the inquiries came into based on the liquid capital requirement. So the number 1 category for liquid capital requirement was $25,000 to $49,999. Almost half, it was 49.4% of all inquiries, almost 50%, came in for a liquid capital requirement between 25 and just under 50,000. The second highest category was between 50,000 and $99,999. And that came in at 31.6%. So if we add these two together, what we're looking at here is basically just over 80% of all franchise opportunity inquiries have a liquid capital requirement ranging between $25,000 and $99,999. So basically right at about $100,000. So between 25 and 100, 80%, 8 out of 10 inquiries were in that category. So if your liquid capital, remember, that's not your total initial investment. How much cash does someone need to get started? They might take out a loan, they might need other things, but how much cash does someone need to get in? And that these numbers seem to be pretty consistent over the years, but just something for you to be thinking about. If your franchise opportunity is outside of those categories, outside of that range, you may want to think about how you can either get into that range, or if that's feasible, may not be feasible for your brand, or to consider changing things up, or figure out how to target that 20% that's outside of that range. All right, so we talked through the small business sentiment. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about the coronavirus. I feel like I kind of have to talk about that a little bit, but let's just at least show daily case count. So here's a good sign that we're seeing. So this is the total daily cases in the United States. This is from the cdc.gov website. This is the most current data. It's showing January 26, 2022. And you see this red line here is a rolling 7-day average. So this is averaging out the 7-day average. And so I like the red line. It's a little easier to kind of see what's going on. And the good news is it looks like, based on what we're seeing here, you know, there's this big high skyrocket up of active cases in December into January. And it looks like it peaked around January 12th or so, January 10th, somewhere in that neighborhood. And now it looks just as quickly as it's went up, just as quickly it's starting to come down, which is a good thing for all of us. And from what I've gathered and read and seen, it seems like this the new variant is relatively mild, comparatively speaking. So that's a good thing for all of us. I know I've had a lot of clients all over the country that have had challenges, including our business, of people who are, you've got a lot of people that have been out sick or coming back. And so you're kind of short staffed just because people have been out sick, but it looks like we're getting through it. We're on the other side, we're on the way out of it, it looks like. So I think that's a good thing. Let's see. I don't know what that was, but let's talk about, we haven't pulled up Google Trends in a while. So I just thought it'd be cool to show rolling 12 months of the search term buy a franchise. I just typed in buy a franchise to see what that looks like. And I just did this about 20 minutes before the session started here. So here is the trend of what's going on for buy a franchise. And look at this week. It is a surge for this week. So a huge spike this week. So I'm thinking maybe people are kind of out of the holiday hangover, as I've heard it called sometimes, from, after New Year's Day until mid-January or so. Looks like maybe we're over that. The coronavirus stuff is starting to come down, and look at this, a huge spike. So what does that mean to you? Why does that matter? Well, if you're offering franchises for sale, now might be that time to give a little spike to your franchise marketing. Here are the top 5 regions where these inquiries are, where these searches are happening. Number 1, Oregon. Number 2, Louisiana. Number 3, Colorado. Number 4, Florida. And number 5, Pennsylvania. So just some interesting information for you to see. Let's see. We talked about the unemployment rate already. And lastly, just do a quick shout out for the IFA's, the International Franchise Association 2022 annual convention out in San Diego. That is coming up here, and it's going to run February 26th to March 1st. If you are not active and on committees and such, I believe really the opening ceremony, I think, if I remember right, is Saturday, which I believe is the 27th. I think a lot of committees are meeting that first day. So you'll want to double check the schedule for when to come out. But I will be there. Hopefully we'll have a chance to see. So let's see you at a round table, or maybe over lunch, or for coffee in the morning. And so that is the presentation for us today, and some things to be thinking about. Are there any questions from anybody on the line here that we could answer, or just open up for a general discussion forum for us to talk through today? Feel free to just raise your hand, type it in the chat box. I can unmute you for the group that we have on the line here. All right. Well, we have a quiet group. Well, I would like to thank you all for attending. Please remember, we do have a weekly podcast called Multiply Your Success, where you can get a weekly dose of inspiration and education to help you multiply your success as you're going through this. So please subscribe, available at Apple Podcast or Spotify, or your favorite podcast subscription service. And we will be back next week with a great webinar series, with a great webinar next Friday as well. And thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend, everyone. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.